Good evening. Welcome to Lewiston City Council regular meeting of October 5th, 2015. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. First order of business is Pledge of Allegiance. Please join Mayor Pro Tem Johnson in saying the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, our first item of business, citizen comments. It's an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items or other items they wish to bring to the attention of the council. Citizens are encouraged to discuss operational issues in advance with the city manager. And in consideration of others wishing to speak, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Do we have any citizen comments this evening? Please come forward, name and address for the record.
My name is Richard Kramer. I live at 634 6th Avenue. I come tonight here with a petition from the residents of our block. We're situated in that kind of tiny little special use zoning area that's between St. Joe's facilities and Lewis Clark State College. And in the past, when there was several years ago, there was a movement to put in a resident parking permit program. The people in our block opted out of that because at that time there was one small doctor's office here that had very little business and not a lot of traffic. And Lewiston Clark State College was doing a really fine job of getting their residents at the parish house that's across the road from parking on our side of the street. So the residents had full use of that parking area and were able to enjoy that. Christina has retired. St. Joseph's has taken over that building, put their IT department in there, along with about 8 to 10 people that work there. And of late, it seems like the students in the parish house have discovered that while there was a verbal agreement between the city and Lewis Clark State College, there was no enforcement measures available to it. So the residents of that, I'm going to give this to Commissioner Randall here and ask you to pass this down. We have all signed this petition requesting that the south side of 6th Avenue between 5th Street and 6th Street, between 6th Street and 7th Street be limited to residential parking permit use. I did contact the Lewiston City Police Department, asked them how we would go about this, and we have presented this petition to Officer Brandon Hoople, and he is taking it forward to Deputy Chief Lanier, and they are going to be discussing it with the new Lewiston Police captain tomorrow, I guess. I just wanted to present this to you. I want to point out there are 2 addresses on there that are not occupied. One is 208, which was kind of quietly bought up by St. Joe's and is now property of St. Joseph's Regional Medical Center. Maybe not a violation of the strict rule of that special use zone, but I think kind of bending the intent. And the other home there is at 624 where Jim and Kelly Cash used to live. It's vacant and for sale right now. All the other residents that are on the block have signed the petition and agreed that they'd like to have the resident permit parking in place for that side of the street. Okay.
Have you discussed this with the city manager yet, or?
Have not. No.
Okay.
I contacted the Lewiston Police Department communications commander, and she said that it would have to come through the Lewiston Police Department, but there was a comment made to the effect that the new chief of police was going to look at the residential parking program and decide whether they wanted to continue it, let alone expand it. And that's sort of why I'm here tonight, is to ask the city council to take a look at this.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So we'll make sure you get a copy of this. We enacted that back when I was on planning and zoning. It was when that started. And I remember there was some opting in, opting out type of things, so perhaps that's something we need to address. Since we've got 2, 6, 7, 8, 9 people just on that one block that are requesting this, so.
Sure, we'll review the regulation for that particular parking district on Normal Hill, and then be able to come back and give you a recommendation.
Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else? Okay, well, seeing none, we'll go ahead and start the meeting. Public hearings and presentations. Tonight we have a public hearing. This is a zone change, ZNC 15-000003. Applicant Tim Lynch, my architect, on behalf of Alexander Investors. It's a request to rezone 3330, 3328, 3324, and 3322 7th Street and 625 Bryden Avenue, and the north 77 feet of 621 Bryden Avenue, a total of approximately 5 acres from Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area B zoning district to Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area A zoning district. Mr. Bennett, you want to introduce?
Sure. I'll have our city planner, Joel Plaskon, provide the staff report on that, but this one's pretty straightforward. This is the Southgate Shopping Center we're talking about, and after it was built, it was rezoned, and one half allows residential only, and one half allows commercial and residential, true mixed-use development. And that's what, it splits the property basically down the middle, and they're just trying to fix that situation. So, Joel?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'll give you a summary of the written staff report that's in your packets. If you've read through it, you'll see there's a lot of code sections referenced in there. I'm not going to go into all the details on that, but as Mr. Bennett stated, this is a rezone application for the property on Bryden Avenue known as the Southgate Plaza, which is a commercial development occupying approximately 4.3 acres on the north side of Bryden Avenue west of 7th Street. The remaining 7/10 of an acre of the property included in the rezone application consist of 4 lots that are 8,600 square feet in size, 2 of which have old homes on them, one of which, at least one of which, is abandoned. The other 2 8,600 square foot lots are undeveloped, and they're located on the west side of 7th Street south of Linden Avenue. We'll look at some maps and some photographs here after I summarize the staff report. As Mr. Bennett stated also, this is a mixed-use neighborhood. To the north of the subject property is McGee Elementary School. To the west and to the northwest are apartment complexes. To the east and the northeast are single-family homes, and to the south is a mixture of various commercial and residential uses. Bit history also referenced by Mr. Bennett. The property was rezoned via ZC 0604, indicating it was done in 2004, from the community commercial zoning district to the Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area A and Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area B zones. It was done as the result of a major planning initiative which began with a comprehensive plan amendment. And the 2 zoning districts, Bryden Avenue A and Bryden Avenue B, are one of the results of that planning initiative. One of the things that you're supposed to look at in considering a rezone application is whether or not the proposed zoning is more suitable for the property in question than the existing zoning. You've got a worksheet in your packets titled Reason Statement of Relevant Criteria and Standards for Rezones. One of the things to consider in the zoning issue is the intents and the purposes of the zones, as well as the uses of the zones and the development regulations of the zones. The Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area purpose in the zoning code is to provide a special planning area for development of limited commercial use that minimizes impacts on nearby residential uses and fosters creative residential development compatible with anticipated high traffic volumes on Bryden Avenue. One of the other criteria you're supposed to look at in considering a rezone application is consistency with the comprehensive plan. The property in question is designated for commercial use on the comprehensive plan future desired land use map, so that's an important item to consider. There's no need to amend the comprehensive plan map in order to approve this rezone. It is already compatible with that commercial land use designation. One of the key issues related to this rezone application is the fact that the majority of the property is already developed for commercial purposes. And having the residential zone on it creates a significant burden on the owner of the property and his ability to use that commercial facility. There are fairly strict regulations in the zoning code having to do with what the code refers to as non-conforming uses and non-conforming structures, and what you hear in layman's terms as grandfathered. And those code references are contained in the staff report. As an example, an existing non-conforming structure and use shall not be enlarged, constructed, reconstructed, moved, or structurally altered, though it may be repaired. Non-conforming uses of land and structures in combination may be rebuilt only with approval of a conditional use permit, and that would have to occur with a building permit obtained within 1 year of the date of the deconstruction. Any change in use to the nonconformity is subject to scrutiny with various criteria that have to be looked at. So those are hindrances in the code for the use of the existing commercial building and commercial property. I already mentioned the comprehensive plan map designation for the property. There's also language in the text of the comprehensive plan that is directly related to the rezone application. It contains some history, too, in the text of the comprehensive plan specific to the Bryden Avenue planning area. Just for a little bit of background, having gone through that process of amending the comprehensive plan to create this Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area corridor, it was found that there were three key elements. One of them had to do with traffic. The comprehensive plan says that planning must begin for the future expansion of Bryden Avenue and for general traffic impacts throughout the area. Pursuit of that has been occurring over time. The Public Works Department has done a Bryden Avenue traffic corridor study for street improvements down the road. No pun intended. The second key element identified in the comprehensive planning process was property values. The comp plan says that property owners experienced a reduction in their property investment potential due to a reduced market for residential properties along Bryden Avenue. Property values is also a key issue to this rezone application because the property being rezoned for residential is not conducive to investment in the property as a commercial facility. And so the tendency then is for properties to become degraded. And I think that the property in question is an example of that. The third key element identified in the comprehensive planning process for this corridor had to do, it says the existing zoning does not allow expansion of commercial development. Property owners desire a mechanism to rezone residential properties with declining market value to commercial uses. Additional language in the comprehensive plan applicable to your consideration of this rezone application. There's a section called Planning Area A Land Use, and it explicitly acknowledges the Southgate Shopping Center. It says, as a goal, it says, enhance and intensify commercial development of Southgate Shopping Center. This shopping center is ripe for intensified commercial development to provide a community shopping center to residents in the Lewiston Orchards. There's also a statement in the comprehensive plan having to do with access to Linden Avenue, and you'll see on a map in a minute, the subject property does front Linden Avenue. The comp plan says that primary access to commercial development should not be allowed from either Bryden Drive or Linden Drive. Excuse me, I misspoke earlier. I said Linden Avenue, I meant Linden Drive. It says in the comprehensive plan that secondary access from Bryden Drive or Linden Drive should be controlled to maximize safety and minimize impacts to residential uses. I'm not sure why the north half of this shopping center was rezoned to the Bryden Avenue B zone, which is a residential zoning district. I wasn't here when that was done, but it's obvious that a hard line was drawn north and south of Bryden Avenue in line with Bryden Drive and Linden Drive, and that hard line was drawn seemingly without regard to the fact that the Southgate Shopping Center was right there, and they ended up splitting it in half with residential and commercial. It also says in the staff report, and I mentioned it, but I'll repeat it because it's important. The current Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area B zoning of the subject properties is conducive to the property owner not investing money in maintenance and improvements to the existing commercial uses because they're non-conforming uses. In other words, they're no longer permitted uses by right in the zone. The existing commercial development on the subject properties has been allowed to significantly deteriorate, resulting in what could be said to be a condition of blight. Blighted conditions reduce property values. One of the primary intents of having created the Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area was to preserve and increase property values. It's anticipated that if this rezone application is approved, the existing commercial development on the subject properties will be enhanced and expanded. Additionally, since the requested Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area A zone also allows multifamily residential development, it's anticipated that the 4 lots on the northeast corner of the subject property, that's at the southwest corner of Linden Drive and 7th Street, may be redeveloped with apartments. However, commercial uses could also occur there. Any new vehicular access points to 7th Street or Linden Drive will be scrutinized for appropriateness, and impact to those streets and the adjoining land uses would be managed through the building permit review process. Any new development or redevelopment on the property will be required to comply with the Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area A zoning development regulations. Those standards include limited street access. That includes perimeter and interior parking lot landscaping, street trees on Bryden Avenue, and it also includes architectural design for walls facing or fronting Bryden Avenue. This zoning district has the most stringent commercial and residential development standards of any zoning district in the city. That's my summary of the staff report. I can answer questions now, or if you'd like me to show you some maps and photographs, I'd be happy to do that.
Why don't you go ahead and do that?
Okay. What I'm putting up on the overhead now is an aerial photograph of the subject property and the immediately surrounding properties. It's got the zoning layer turned on, so that's what the various colors are. North is up on this aerial photograph. This is Bryden Avenue. This is 7th Street. This is Linden. Is Linden Ave. And the subject property is bolded in red here. The part that's bolded in red is the Bryden Avenue B zone, and the part to the south of it is in the Bryden Avenue A zone. So you can see there's a commercial building here, a rather large commercial building that's located in the B zone, which is in the residential zone.
Joel, that gold strip, the B zone, does that extend all the way from Fifth Street on the east all the way to 10th Street?
Street.
Excuse me, I got them reversed. All the way to 10th Street on the east, is that?
Correct.
So it's potential somewhere down the road, maybe not this city council, but some other city council could be faced with the same discussion later on if someone wanted to acquire both sides and wanted to acquire that B zone. So somewhere down the road, we could be talking about this again.
You will be. I've got a rezone application on my desk right now that's scheduled for hearing for November 4th at the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it'll then go to you after that.
Wow, I must be on the same channel as you. Okay, thank you.
But remember, it's quasi-judicial application, so not to be talking about it outside the public hearing
No, I
forum.
wasn't aware of this, I was just wondering.
This is another aerial photograph, basically the same as what we just showed you, but the zoning layer is not turned on, so you can see it a little bit more clearly. North is up. This is Bryden Avenue. This is 7th. This is Linden. The purple line represents the boundary between the Bryden Avenue A zone to the south, Bryden Avenue B zone to the north. These are the 4 8,600 square foot lots I talked about in the staff report, 2 of which have old homes on them, one of which I believe is abandoned, at least one of them. You can see here also that the north end of this commercial building, addressed as 621 Bryden Avenue, is also in the B zone, or the residential zone, so it is affected as well. Well, looks at some photographs I've taken. This is looking northeast from Bryden Avenue at the primary entrance to the Southgate Shopping Center. So the property in the foreground here is not part of the rezone application. It's already in the A zone, but you can see the property that you're being asked to rezone in the background here. Just gives you an idea of what the entrance to the overall property looks like. This is a photograph looking west-northwest from the 7th Street entrance into the Southgate Shopping Center. This is the south side of one of those old homes that I mentioned, sitting on one of those 8,600 square foot lots. This is the south elevation or the south wall of the existing commercial building that's in the B zone now that they want to rezone to the A zone. This is looking north up 7th Street from that same entrance, which goes off to the left here into the Southgate Shopping Center. Wanted to point out the street frontage situation here on the east side of the subject property. If it is rezoned and redeveloped, that redevelopment permit application will trigger curb gutter sidewalk improvements on 7th Street, which is also an important consideration given that those are goals of the comprehensive plan for this neighborhood. This is looking southwest from the intersection of 7th and Linden. So this is the northeast corner of the subject property. It's actually a vacant lot. It's actually, these are the 2 vacant 8,600 square foot lots here. This is looking west from 7th Street down Linden. So McGee Elementary School, playfields are over here. This is the north wall of the existing commercial building that's in the B zone that you're being asked to rezone.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Blake?
Joel, back to that picture then. With the rezoning, I understand then curb and gutter work would be required on that north side, the south side? South side?
Not directly as a result of the rezone application.
Well,
Indirectly, it's expected that it would trigger street improvements on the south side of Linden there. If redevelopment of that commercial building qualifies as a major remodel, then that would trigger the curb gutter sidewalk improvements to be installed on Linden.
And that would also then trigger that improvement of the appearance of what, you drive by, it looks like a warehouse from that side of the street.
Yeah, we'll look at a photo of that in a minute. It's quite deteriorated.
So that would, somewhere along the way, that would have to be improved too then, according to what you said earlier?
Not required by code to meet the architectural standards on the north wall of that building because it doesn't front Bryden Avenue.
It's the south wall.
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable to expect, though, that rezoning the property will result in substantial investment in upgrading the building to where it would look better than it does right now.
Thank you.
This is looking north across Linden from the subject property at McGee Elementary. This is looking at the west end of the north wall of that existing building Councilor Blakey was just talking about. This is looking east down Linden along the north wall of that northerly commercial building that you're being asked to rezone. You can see the west side of it here. This is looking east down Linden from the this is looking west down Linden from the westerly access to the subject property off of Linden. This is the secondary access into Southgate off of Linden. This is looking south from Linden up that same driveway I was just pointing to. You can see there's a paved drive that goes all the way to Bryden. This is the north wall of the building that I mentioned, the north end of which is in the B zone. You can see the existing gravel condition here and the west wall of the northerly commercial building. All conditions we would anticipate be improved as a result of the rezone. This is looking north from that same driveway toward apartments that are on the north side of Linden and west of McGee. This is looking west at the apartments that are located to the west of the subject property. Again, indication of the mixed-use neighborhood. This is looking south from the interior of the parking lot of the subject property. This photo is taken at a spot that's currently in the B zone that you're being asked to rezone to the commercial A zone. This is looking at the west wall of the northerly building on the property. This is looking at the west end of the south wall of the northerly building. This is looking at the central and easterly parts of that same building on the south wall. This is looking at the same wall and the parking in front of it from the opposite direction. This is looking west along the south wall of the northerly building. And this is looking west at the building that most of it is in the A zone now, but part of it is not. That dividing line is about in this area here. They've already started in some remodeling of that. So those are the maps and the photographs that I have to show you to give you some perspective on the existing conditions. Do you have any questions of me at this time?
Council Randall?
Is there a possibility that if the rezone was approved, that we could stipulate that the north side of that property being considered would have limited access because of the proximity of the school grounds? If I remember right, there's the buses come in there and offload and unload or reload at the end of the day in that area for that school. And there's also a lot of, besides bus travel, there's a lot of private cars that come and pick their kids up or let them off, and also a lot of pedestrian traffic from the apartment buildings further down the street. So my concern is that safety of those kids in that area, if it goes to commercial development, and want to restrict that kind of traffic going through there to a limited amount of traffic if we can. Is there a possibility of that?
There is a mechanism to do that. It's called contract zoning. There's a clause in the state code, and there's also a clause in the city code, and procedures set forth for that to happen. My recollection is that if the city council were to impose a condition on the rezone, if you were inclined to approve the rezone application but only subject to conditions, you would have to enter into a contract with the applicant to do that. And before you could do that, you would have to send it back to the Planning and Zoning Commission to start the process again. If you have specific questions about what could be done to limit access on the Linden side, we'd be happy to try to answer those at the staff level tonight. I can tell you that I've already talked with the applicant's representative about that issue. As a matter of fact, just did that today. And we are going to be working at the staff level, Community Development and Public Works, to negotiate reduced and limited access to the north side of the shopping center from Linden. And Public Works might have some more specific information than that, and what they could require through the traffic impact statement. That's going to have to be done anyway as a part of any building permit application.
Well, there's currently only 2 access points on the north side.
Correct, and they're secondary access points. They're not primary access points.
I just, when you're talking about the line being drawn, that was when I first got on the planning and zoning back in November of 2003. And there was a big, huge meeting up at the Orchards Community Church kind of discussing what to do about Bryden. And that's kind of where I got thrown into it. But basically what it came down to, just for the council's information, was that line was drawn as basically the center line of Linden Drive. And the reason was because on the west end of, towards 5th Street, you know, there is a Linden Drive, and there's all sorts of crazy little orchard lots that have been divided and divided and divided. But by the time you get down to 7th Street, most of those lots to the east are actually, a good portion of them are actually through lots from Bryden to Linden Ave, not Linden Drive, even though I'm assuming there's a right-of-way through there. But the big thing was at the time that the mall was an ongoing concern. You know, at that time, it was a commercial business and had things happening, had occupancy in the buildings. So yeah, I don't think anybody really foresaw that one coming. That's why that line was drawn the way it was. You know, in retrospect, probably should have taken into account the existing commercial uses. But as you said, they were already grandfathered in. That was, the big V Actually, I guess they had just got ready to be done, but MSB took over
Right.
and turned into a call center, so. Anyways, it's commercial use. It's been a historic commercial use for a very long time, so I'll leave it at that. Any other, yes,
I
Councilor
just want to
Daniel.
make a comment that several months ago, the council, including myself and staff, we met with Mr. Alexander downtown and had a private meeting with him. I never truly felt comfortable with how that meeting played out because it wasn't just, it turned into, we actually did discuss this property. It isn't going to affect my decision in any way, but I've never felt comfortable with it after the fact, so I just wanted to disclose that we did have lunch. I think he actually paid for it, is my understanding. So I just wanted to disclose that.
Okay. And for the rest of the council, those that were in attendance at that meeting? Okay. And I agree with you. I don't think that was in any way, shape, or form intended to sway an opinion. He was just, basically the gist of that conversation was telling us why he's here, what he's got going on, what he has, and what he plans. That was pretty much it, so. Anyways, any other questions for Mr. Plaskon? Thanks, Joel.
If I might just add
Yes.
another comment, and then I wanted to refer to the criteria. As far as the traffic and access to Linden goes, I wanted to restate something out of the comprehensive plan. Again, one of the criteria has to do with consistency with the comprehensive plan, but the comprehensive plan says that commercial properties or in the Bryden Avenue A zone can access Linden, but not as a primary access. And I wanted to point out that the existing accesses to Southgate Shopping Center are secondary, and they're existing. We did talk about that again at the staff level today, and the likelihood or the possibility of any substantial traffic increase on Linden as a result of this rezone and improvements to the shopping center, and felt comfortable at the staff level that it would not result in significant increases in traffic to Linden. Again, remind you as well that traffic impact statement will be required by the applicant, which could then trigger a traffic impact analysis, at which point Public Works Engineering staff would review for potential street improvements that had to do with traffic impacts. With that, I just want to remind you about the criteria necessary to approve or deny a rezone application. They're included in the worksheet in your packets. One of the criteria is that you find that the application is in general conformance with the comprehensive plan. Another one is that the subject land is at least as well suited or better suited for the proposed zoning than the existing zoning. Third one is that the proposed rezone doesn't present foreseen immitigable impacts of incompatible uses. Fourth one is that the effects of the proposed rezone are or are not anticipated to place undue burden on the delivery of services provided by any political subdivision, including school districts. We did notice the Lewiston Independent School District on this rezone application and got no response or comment from them. And the fifth criteria in considering a rezone application is whether the size, type, intensity, and density of development expected to occur on the subject property as a result of the rezoning is suitable for the area and will not unduly burden the neighborhood, public infrastructure, or environmental resources.
Okay. Councilor Blakey?
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Joel, during that lunchtime meeting that Councilor Daniels is referring to, the applicant indicated that his intention was to maybe build apartment complexes and/or some kind of apartment dwellings where those homes are now in that northeast corner of it. Knowing that piece of information, should that affect any of our decision as far as, again, we're talking traffic flow and usage and numbers of vehicles?
when you compare residential development to commercial development and residential uses to commercial uses, multifamily residential development can be substantially comparable to commercial use and development when it comes to traffic generation. The size of the land available for multifamily development in the northeast corner of this property is and the fact that it's already subdivided into 4 separate lots leads me to believe that it would be reasonable to expect fourplexes or 4 triplexes to be built there, maybe, on 7th Street. I'm just hypothesizing. But I don't view traffic generated by 12 to 16 units as being substantially greater or less than if that same piece of land was developed for commercial, for retail.
And to follow that up, so duplex is up here in this area is 7,500 square feet, correct? If you're going to build a duplex, you have to have 7,500 square feet?
Well,
And then each additional
in
dwelling's another 1,500?
residential zones that are not Bryden Avenue B zones, the minimum lot size is 10,000
10,000.
square feet.
Okay.
That's not the case in the Bryden Avenue B zone. I'd have to look and see what the minimum lot size is in the B zone.
Okay. Pro Tem.
I'd like to echo Councilor Daniels' comments earlier on the lunch with Mr. Alexander. I too was uncomfortable about it, but just for transparency purposes and public disclosure, I want to make it known that it won't affect my vote.
Mayor?
Me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Couple of questions for Mr. Plaskon. Joel, the current zoning is Bryden A, correct?
It's Bryden Avenue B zone.
B, sorry, Bryden B. And the multiple family residential development being discussed is currently permitted in that zone, yes?
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Thanks for reminding me.
So there's no difference between the 2 zoning districts with respect to the ability of building multiple family residential?
100% correct. Those apartments that Mr. Alexander mentioned to you could be built by right today in the B zone.
Second
So-
question also is that the property directly to the north, or the area directly to the north of the shopping center and to the east of the shopping center is currently already designated under the comprehensive plan for high-density residential, correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Mayor Kleberg, to answer your question.
Yeah, it's right here, Joel.
Yes, you're
7,500 square feet plus
For-
1,500 square feet per unit for every unit over 2.
Yep, you got it right.
So you could put a fourplex on 10,000 square feet.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Joel, any estimate on what this would add to the property values?
No clue.
Okay.
Councilor Collins.
This question is for Mr. Davies. There's a reference in here to the Bryden Avenue corridor, that it's on the target, but funding hasn't been put in place yet or potentially in place. Do you have a general idea when we might be looking at that corridor being improved that may affect this facility, or this facility may affect that corridor? I mean, it says it's a high priority. Let me get to my words right here. High priority, yes. Huh? Oh.
Thank you, Council. Alana Bailey with the Engineering Department for the city. Bryden Avenue corridor is a approximate $15 million project. It's long-term planning. We are looking to put some of the initial phases on it in the next 5 years for the preliminary environmental work and right-of-way work. Construction would be farther out.
And any frontage improvements that the applicant may or may not be doing will be in conformance with a projected future frontage.
Correct, and very long-term out, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay,
Yeah,
Well-
I do. Somebody.
I'd like to hear from the applicant. Go ahead.
Oh, signage. And I'm not sure what you might do. Currently, there's a very large sign out in front. With the redevelopment of this property, would that sign still be within code, or would it have to be removed, the large sign on Bryden?
If you approve the rezone, would have no impact on that sign one way or the other,
Okay.
at least not directly as a result of the rezone. They wouldn't have to remove it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And I see the applicant is here. Mr. Lynch, name and address for the record.
Tim Lynch with My Architect, 504 Main Street, Suite 480. Mayor and council members, on behalf of the Alexander investors, I'd like to thank you for considering this zone change. The biggest thing that we're looking at, this would allow for the continued revitalization of Southgate Plaza with respect to existing buildings, which would be non-conforming for this change. And as Joel pointed out earlier, that having that non-conforming use attached to the building really limits what can be done and what investment would be, what investment would be put into that. By having it rezoned would allow for the future, for future development of that space. And I think to comment to Commissioner Blakely's concern on the, or was it Commissioner, on the north side of the facility. Any work that we would do on the building, we want to do facade improvements for sure. We want to do on 625. We also do want to improve the frontage on Linden Ave, which right now is just asphalt into a drainage ditch. And I think by improving that frontage and adding curb gutter and sidewalk there would also improve the safety along that corridor as well. But that we definitely intend to bring those improvements around the entire facility. Any questions?
Any question from Mr. Lynch?
None? All right,
No,
thank you for your time.
They're turning up a lot of dirt right now, so.
Yeah, yes, we are.
Okay, don't
But that's
go
all
away.
within the A zone.
Okay, don't go away. Okay, I guess at this time, we'll go ahead and open up this public hearing, and we'll accept testimony either in favor or against the proposed zone change. So if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to speak to the issue? Name and address for the record? Going once? Okay. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And obviously no purpose in rebuttal. So this time, I guess we have more questions for Mr. Plascon, or if we want to start deliberating, I'd entertain a motion to approve the zone change from Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area A to Bryden, from B to Bryden Avenue Special Planning Area A.
So moved.
Second.
Okay? Motions have been made and seconded. Is there discussion? I, for one, would like to commend Mr. Alexander for taking that on. I don't think that was even part of his, from what I gathered, part of his vision for Lewiston. It just happened to be a good deal when he got it at the foreclosure. That mall had been neglected for years. In fact, the term that we used in planning and zoning back in the day was moribund. You know, it's just a bad sounding word, and it has been moribund for many years. Been neglected. You know, made an effort here and there to try and start a few things, but, you know, when you drove by it here just 6-7 months ago, pretty much vacant. A little smoke shop and a pizza store that couldn't make it, and other than that, everybody else was gone. So I'm very happy to see this project moving forward, and like I said, just speaking on behalf of the P&Z council that I was on at the time, I think it was just an oversight that drew that line down Linden Drive without quite thinking about it, just because of the fact that the place at the time was fairly vibrant and occupied. So anyways, I think this is correcting something that should have probably been cleared up, 10 years ago. Any other comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there anybody wanting to pull anything from consent?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Randall.
item B, would like to move to the active agenda.
Okay. Item B will now become active agenda O. It's a big active agenda. Okay. All those in favor of reading the consent agenda as amended, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
We need a motion.
Oh, we need a motion?
I will move.
You move?
I will move.
We have a second? Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of reading the consent agenda as amended, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Approving the minutes of the August 24th, 2015 regular meeting and the September 14th, 2015 work session. Accepting the minutes of the August 8th, 2015 Historic Preservation Commission, September 15th Solid Waste Advisory Commission, and the September 2nd, 2015 Transportation Advisory Commission. Approving Resolution 2015-50 by title only. A resolution of the City of Lewiston approving a street name change for a portion of 15th Street to be known as Expedition Way and providing an effective date. And approving the vouchers payable dated August 28th, 2015 through September 10th, 2015 in the amount of $1,518,086.65 and vouchers payable for September 11th through September 24th, 2015 in the amount of $1,962,512.21.
Okay, councilors, the consent agenda has been read. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, moving on to the active agenda. Item A, Assistant Problem Solving Court Coordinator. This is considering the agreement between the Idaho Supreme Court and the City of Lewiston for funding an Assistant Problem Solving Court Coordinator for Nez Perce County Courts. Who wants to introduce, Mr. Bennett or
I think City Attorney will.
Ms. Gomez?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This agreement's back before the council, was before the council at your last council meeting. And the council had some concerns over potential impacts on the city budget in the form specifically of unemployment and workers' comp claims, and also about supervision of this employee lying solely with the courts. So we went back and we talked with the Idaho Supreme Court about amending the agreement, and I've previously sent the council a red line version of the agreement so you could see what was changed. Specifically in sections 6, 7, and 8, the city manager was added to the supervision, the performance evaluations, and the discipline and termination. Due to recent case law, the administrative district judge, which is Judge Brody, has to be the person who is in charge of disciplining and terminating. But we added in there that he shall consult with the city manager and take the city manager's advice in good faith when making those decisions. We also added, we changed section 9, we reduced it from 17,000, I think it was 338. We reduced it by 2,500 down to the current 14,838. And that extra $25, we created section 10, which is a reserve. So the Supreme Court will hold on to that money in an account. Basically, the city won't bill the Supreme Court for that money, and it will sit with the Supreme Court. And if a claim is filed by the coordinator who's hired or in the position, a workers' comp claim or an unemployment claim against the city is filed, and the city has to actually pay out on that claim, then the city at that point can bill the Idaho Supreme Court for its costs up to the amount set aside in the reserve. From year to year, the reserve amount will be renegotiated depending on how much money the legislature apportions to the position. And so the city is able to, pursuant to the agreement, build up the reserve to an amount that it feels comfortable with being in the reserve. So the reserve is not a use it or lose it. If we set aside $2,500 this year and we don't use any of it, that $2,500 is to stay in the reserve until next year. And the most recent change, which I notified you of today, was the last sentence was added to section 10, saying that in the event that the city terminates this agreement, the reserve money is available for use by the city up to a year after termination of the agreement. That way, if we terminate the agreement, just hypothetically, in 4 years, and then 5 months after we terminate the agreement, we get an unemployment claim, we can still use money in that reserve account at the Supreme Court to pay on that claim. So the agreement is back before the council for consideration tonight.
Okay. Councilor Daniel.
I move that we approve the agreement.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Discussion. Pro Tem.
In section 9 on compensation and funding, it says the city shall bill the court the actual costs quarterly. In the meantime, which fund will the money be coming out of to pay the employee?
I don't know how that works. Do you?
Well, the monies will be allocated through our Munis payroll system, like for any other city employee, and I believe it's assigned to the executive department.
Okay.
And so those monies will be allocated to that line item so that they can be drawn upon and used for the payment of the salary.
And then reimbursed quarterly.
Correct.
Okay.
According to our agreement with the Idaho Supreme Court.
So we're out potentially 90 days worth,
Right.
but we get reimbursed at the end of 90, at
Right.
the end of the quarter. Okay. Further questions? Well, personally, I think you did a good job of alleviating some of the concerns we had, because, initially, once some of those thoughts started popping up, I hadn't really thought that far into it. And I think it's a decent agreement, and I think it's obviously definitely needed, so I'm happy to support it.
Well, I know that the Supreme Court and the local judges and the current coordinator are very thankful for the city in taking this on if that's what you decide to do.
Okay. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Roll call.
Can I
Roll
get a
call?
roll call vote, please?
Certainly. All those in favor of approving by roll call vote?
Counselor Blakey?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Kleber?
Aye.
Counselor Daniel?
Aye.
Counselor Collins?
Aye.
Counselor Randall?
Aye.
Okay. Next up's a consent to annexation agreement for 3877 Industrial Way. This is approving an agreement to annex 3877 Industrial Way into the city of Lewiston. Mr. Bennett?
This is a consent annexation agreement, similar to others that have already been considered for properties along Industrial Way. This is the area near the mill where the current composting facility is, and there are a number of properties there that are in the area of city impact, not in the city limits yet. Some are adjacent to the city limits, some are not. And this one in particular is not adjacent to the city limits yet. There's a clause in the contract that says that at such time as it is adjacent to the city limits, or at such time as the city feels is appropriate, then the property can be annexed into the city of Lewiston. And this is the protocol that we're going to follow with all of the properties out in that same Industrial Way area as they individually or collectively decide to be developed and become a part of the city. If you have any specific questions about the nature of this particular property or project, Public Works Director Chris Davies is here and he can answer those questions for you.
This is basically the same thing we did with King's Thrones and
Western.
Kluwer Composting,
Right.
Western. Okay. Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve the annexation agreement for 3877 Industrial Way.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Further discussion?
Roll call.
We'll take a roll call vote to approve. Where's my sign?
Aye. Counselor Blakey.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Kluber.
Aye.
Counselor Daniel.
Aye.
Counselor Collins.
Aye.
Counselor Randall.
Aye.
Okay. Motion's approved, 7-0. Okay, next up, Resolution 2015-45. This is accepting a grant of a permanent maintenance easement and a temporary access easement from the Christian and Missionary Alliance Church, Inc., approving a right-of-way contract regarding said easements between the city and the Christian and Missionary Alliance Church, Incorporated. I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2015-45.
By roll call vote.
By roll call vote.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh,
That
sorry.
was roll call.
Aye.
Roll call.
Counselor Maldonado.
Aye.
Counselor Blakey.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Kluber.
Aye.
Counselor Daniel.
Aye.
Counselor Collins.
Aye.
Counselor Randall.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, next up is Resolution 2015-43, and this is approving a right-of-way contract between the city and Christian and Missionary Alliance Church, Inc. I'll entertain a motion to approve by roll call vote, Resolution 2015-43.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
Counselor Maldonado.
Aye.
Counselor Blakey.
Still aye.
And Mayor Pro Tem Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Kleberg.
Aye.
Counselor Randall. Counselor Daniel.
Aye.
Counselor Collins.
Aye.
Counselor Randall.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries 7-0. Next up is the potential approving the reasoned statement in ZNC 15-000002. It's approving the reasoned statement for the council's decision in said zone change. I'll entertain a motion to approve the reasoned statement.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion? Should we go over what this is real quick, so everybody knows? This was the zone change that we had at the intersection, southeast intersection at 14th Street and Powers Ave, and it was put to us by the Northwest District of the Lutheran Church, Missouri Synod. So, is there any discussion? Just a vote? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, next up, ordinance 4638 for potential first reading, amending City Code Section 2-1, updating the statutory citation for the Idaho Public Records Act. Entertain a motion to read for the first time, ordinance 4638.
So moved.
Second.
By title only, suspending the rules. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Approving the first reading of ordinance 4638 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Lewiston amending Lewiston City Code Section 2-1, updating the statutory citation for the Idaho Public Records Act and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Carrie. Ordinance 4638 has been read for the first time. We'll move on to ordinance 4636 for potential second and third readings and adoption. This is what's on here. We're going to have an introduction by Mr. Bennett. Granting a non-exclusive franchise to the Port of Lewiston for the installation, operation, and maintenance of fiber optic lines and related facilities within the city for a term of 25 years, providing for the use of public rights-of-way for the installation and maintenance of fiber optic lines and related facilities, providing for a one-time administrative fee, and providing for a franchise fee. It has been brought to our attention that legally we can only read for the second time this evening.
Correct. In this particular case, because it is a franchise agreement, Idaho statute requires that a minimum of 30 days expire between the first reading of the ordinance and the adoption of the ordinance. Since the first reading of the ordinance was on September 14th, the earliest that could occur would be October 14th. So the next regularly scheduled meeting of the council is on October 26th, or 12 days after that. Even if the council wished to approve the ordinance sooner than that, the earliest it could happen would be at a special meeting on October 14th. So although we received the request to conduct both readings tonight and to adopt the ordinance, we would not be able to do that tonight.
Okay. So I guess what I'd look for is a motion to read ordinance 4636 for the second time by title only, suspending the rules.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Approving the second reading of ordinance 4636 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Lewiston granting a non-exclusive franchise to the Port of Lewiston for the installation, operation, and maintenance of fiber optic lines and related facilities within the City of Lewiston for a term of 25 years, providing for the use of public rights-of-way for the installation and maintenance of fiber optic lines and related facilities, providing for a one-time administrative fee, providing for a franchise fee, authorizing the mayor and city clerk to execute and attest said franchise agreement respectively, which agreement contains the exact terms and conditions set forth in the franchise, and providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. I guess it would be at the council's pleasure, but I would not be available on the 14th if we wanted to have a special meeting, or and Mr. Doingsfeld's here, I would just offer that we'd have it at our regularly scheduled meeting on the 26th. Councilor Randall.
Do we need a motion for that?
I don't know.
No, it'll automatically go on your next agenda.
So for our next agenda. So we will read for the third time and possibly approve ordinance 4636 on the 26th. Is that correct? Councilor
Just
Daniel?
had a question. So just, I don't know if you mentioned it, I think you might have, but the third reading and adoption can be done at the same time?
Yes.
Like we don't,
Yeah.
we're not
It
going
just
to
requires 30 days between the first reading and adoption.
Okay. Okay, we'll move on to ordinance 4643. It's an ordinance of the city and county amending the zoning ordinance of the Lewiston area of city impact, Lewiston City Code, Section 39-55, and Section 9.2 of Nez Perce County Ordinance Number 93, vesting authority to approve zone changes within the area of city impact in the Board of Nez Perce County Commissioners, and requiring the Nez Perce County Clerk to notify the city clerk of all amendments to such zoning ordinance. I'll entertain a motion to read for the second time by title only, suspending the rules, ordinance 4643.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Approving the second reading of ordinance 4643 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Lewiston, Idaho, and Nez Perce County, Idaho, amending the zoning ordinance of the Lewiston area of city impact, Lewiston City Code, Section 39-55, and Section 9.2 of Nez Perce County Ordinance Number 93, vesting authority to approve zone changes within the area of city impact in the Board of Nez Perce County Commissioners, and requiring the Nez Perce County Clerk to notify the city clerk of all amendments to such zoning ordinance and providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Ordinance 4643 has been read for the second time. Next up is ordinance 4646 for second reading by title only, suspending the rules. This is amending Article 2 of Chapter 13 of the Lewiston City Code relating to precincts and polling places. Entertain a motion to read for the second time ordinance 4646.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilor Randall.
Mr. Mayor, could we have the city attorney explain why we're doing this?
Mr. Mayor, councilors, I forget the year now. I wasn't prepared to do it again, but a few years back, Idaho passed the Elections Consolidation Act and placed all the election responsibilities with the county. So the county now sets the precincts, and there are no city precincts, so we just need to eliminate them from our city code.
Thank you.
You bet. And I'm sure we'll have a nice story in the paper explaining that. Okay. So we had a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 7-0.
Approving the second reading of ordinance 4646 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Lewiston amending Article 2 of Chapter 13 of the Lewiston City Code relating to precincts and polling places and providing an effective date.
Thank you, Carrie. Ordinance 4646 been read for the second time. Next up is ordinance 4644 for a second reading. By title only, suspending the rules is reclassifying certain misdemeanors to infractions in accordance with the Idaho State Code. Entertain a motion to read for the second time ordinance 4644.
To move.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 7-0.
Approving the second reading of ordinance 4644 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Lewiston reclassifying certain misdemeanors to infractions in accordance with the Idaho State Code and providing an effective date.
Okay, thank you, Carrie. Ordinance 4644 has been read for the second time. Next up is ordinance 4645 for potential second reading by title only, suspending the rules, amending Article 15 of the zoning ordinance of the city to allow for the keeping of poultry within the city limits subject to certain regulations. I'll entertain a motion to read ordinance 4645 for the second time by title only, suspending the rules.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Show of hands. Ayes? Nays? Okay, that motion carries 5-2.
Approving the second reading of ordinance 4645 by title only. An ordinance of the City of Lewiston amending Article 15 of the zoning ordinance of the City of Lewiston to allow for the keeping of poultry within the city limits, subject to certain regulations, and providing an effective date.
Okay, ordinance 4645 has been read for the second time. I'm sure we'll have a little more discussion on our third reading and possible adoption. Up next, Spillman Administration Intergovernmental Agreement. This is approving an intergovernmental agreement between the City of Lewiston and Nez Perce County for the Spillman Administration. Mr. Bennett?
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. The city and the county have been engaged in co-operating the Spillman law enforcement data system for a number of years. Until recently, the city had provided an employee who was responsible, who was in essence the Spillman administrator for the system and handled both the county and the city side of things. And the county made a contribution every year toward the cost of that position. I was notified earlier this year, before the budget process started, that the county's intention was to no longer be a part of that agreement. They were going to hire their own administrator to handle just the county side of Spillman. So in essence, what would happen is that each side, the county and the city, would have their own administrator who would then operate their part of the system, dealing with their data. And there would be some still, I think, coordination between the two IT departments on the IT aspects of that, but as far as the operation of the system goes, they'd be separate. And the county would no longer be contributing to our cost for that position and would instead be funding its own position. So this is a new agreement that memorializes that and begins a new chapter in how Spillman is operated.
It's going to be a roll call. I'll entertain a motion to approve the Spillman Administration intergovernmental agreement by roll call. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Blakey.
Mr. Bennett, you know, I've not quite understood this from the first time we started talking about this, and I can't tell if it's tit for tat or what's going on here, but whereas we now increased the cost to the taxpayers on the county side and the city side, where at one point the taxpayers were paying for one position to get this job done, we now created two positions. One person was doing the job. We created two full-time positions. So we've upped the cost to the, and I can understand, fully understand, if there's that much work to be done, then I'm all supportive of this. I got no choice, actually. But I'm just wondering now, the city, now that it's come back to the city, our side, so we had a full-time person that was sharing the responsibility. Now the city will have a full-time sharing responsibility, two jobs. Now we have a city person who essentially has, in theory, a half-time job. But we're going to make it a full-time job. I understand that in the police department, we have an officer, I don't remember his last name, who does the IT, most of the IT stuff for the police department.
Chernus.
Yes.
Officer Chernus.
Thank you. Is it possible that this person will also take on some of the responsibilities of that gentleman there and relieve him of that? Because we keep talking about he's overworked and possibly, or talking about someday the police department's going to have another IT person. So will that give this person a full-time job by taking on some of those responsibilities?
I think yes and yes is the answer to both of those questions. Our current operator of the system does more than just half of the work on the Spillman system, because the city's data needs and uses are larger because we handle so many more calls than the county does. But that being said, there is more than enough additional work, as you mentioned, with the IT effort for the police department, and they're increasing need to be involved in computer forensics to provide additional work for that individual. So you probably won't see much of a change. It may lessen the workload or even out the workload a bit within the department because of this. We weren't totally unprepared for this. A year ago, the county asked to do an audit of that position and came in to observe exactly what that position did. And I think even at that point, they were considering whether or not they wanted to continue with the relationship the way that it was, or perhaps go with a separate position of their own, which might not be as big a drain on their resources. But that's speculation on my part.
Thank you.
Is there discussion? All those in favor of approving the Spillman intergovernmental agreement, roll call vote?
I'm sorry, Mayor, there's no motion yet.
I thought we had a motion.
I will move.
Okay. We have a motion.
I will second.
Okay. A motion and a second. Further discussion? It's a roll call vote.
Sorry. Counselor Maldonado?
Aye.
Counselor Bakey?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Kleber?
Aye.
Counselor Daniel?
Aye.
Counselor Collins?
Aye.
Counselor Randolph?
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries 7-0. Moving on to vouchers payable to the Albertsons from 8/28/15 through 9/10/15 in the amount of $7.99. Entertain a motion to approve the vouchers payable with Counselor Daniel abstaining.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0 to 1. Counselor Daniel abstaining. Item N, vouchers payable to Pathologist Regional Lab from 9/11/15 through 9/24/15 in the amount of $110.55. Entertain a motion to approve vouchers payable with Counselor Pro Tem Johnson abstaining.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries 6-0 to 1 with Councilor Pro Tem Johnson abstaining. And last but not least would be minutes, old council meeting minutes, which was formerly item B on the consent. Entertain a motion to approve the council meeting minutes.
Mr. Mayor? So moved. I'd like to make a motion to table this item, all of them, until after we have discussion during our executive session.
Okay? A motion to table.
I guess second, but very curiously.
So we have a motion and a second. Is there discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Randall.
I had some personal concerns about why so many work sessions were not in the minutes when they were supposed to be in the minutes and approved by the council. And this goes as far back as 2014. So I think we need to have a little discussion, which will be included under personnel in the executive session.
Well, do you have a disagreement with the minutes?
No disagreement with the minutes, just with, my concern is with why it's so late.
Councilor Blakey.
I think Councilor Randall summed it up right there, promptness, but I guess I put a little bit of the responsibility on our shoulders too. We, as council members, we have an opportunity to see all these minutes and amend all these minutes and change all these minutes. And somewhere along the line, one of us probably should have picked up the fact that, the February work session meetings, we had never seen them yet. So a little bit of responsibility on our own shoulders too, to pay attention to what's going on there.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilor Randall.
I reluctantly agree with Councilor Blakey. But the point is, the statutes, both state and our city code, say that that is the primary mission of the city clerk. And so that was my concern.
Okay. Councilor Daniel.
So even though I seconded this for discussion, I'm going to vote against tabling. I think we should have this discussion, and like Councilor Blakey said, we own some of it, but we can still vote on the minutes themselves.
That's what kind of where I was going at.
But thank you for bringing it up.
Okay. So all those in favor of tabling, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
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 Okay, motion fails 6-0. So all those in, well, I guess we voted down that, so there's no amendment.
Need another motion to approve.
Okay.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve old council meeting minutes and a second. Any other discussion?
Yes.
Councilor Blakey.
I'd like to follow up with Councilor Randall that we do discuss this in executive session.
Okay.
All right.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries 6-1. Oh, okay. Well, with that, on to unfinished and new business. City councilor comments. Do we have any this evening? Councilor Daniel.
I'm not a big fan of pointless laws, and I think in the recent history, we created a pointless law. I didn't agree with the merits then. I don't agree with it now. Several months ago, matter of fact, it might have been a year ago, we put in place a scooter ban, and not only did I disagree with the merits of it, but it's a worthless law to have a scooter ban at Skateboard Park. Every day, not every day, but I drive past there quite often, and there's kids playing safely on a safe facility on their scooters. They're out there exercising. It's clear that we're not going to enforce the law, so why even have it on the books? I think we should repeal it.
Okay. Further comments?
I would second that and echo that. I voted no against it then, and I still at the same time support that we should never abandon in the first place. There was a lot of public testimony that was in favor of permitting them, but we still voted no. But I do have another comment.
Certainly.
Did have an opportunity to go down to Boise on Tuesday last week and attend the Association of Idaho Cities meeting. Good meeting, a very vibrant, long discussion about urban renewal. General consensus feeling of the officials, the representatives, your district representatives, was to not allow our state legislators to water down the urban renewal bill. The feeling is if you let your foot in the door and you got your foot in your door, and you'll start watering down other agencies as Idaho Housing, health facilities, Garvey, any of those other organizations that allow state and civic organizations to raise money. So it was a very good, very, very, very good discussion. For some reason, coming down the road is a sign ordinance that we're all going to have to deal with. It appears that we're going to have to rewrite the cities. We're going to have to rewrite their sign ordinances based on a Supreme Court ruling for the city of Gilbert, Arizona. So I guess right now you can put "Eat at Joe's" in front of out in front of your house or in front of your business, and you're going to be okay. But so I guess we're going to have to review that sign ordinance. It's something to do with public expression and public speech. So more to come on that topic.
So I've already written community development and advice letter about that, and Laura and Joel are already working on that.
Yeah.
So one of the greatest things to get into discussion over is sign ordinances. There isn't a single good sign ordinance. Councilor Maldonado.
Also, I had the opportunity to go to the Art Walk on Friday evening. I think I saw Mayor Pro Tem Johnson there. It was a huge success again, and just a big thank you and congratulations to Brianne Durham, who is now off to Seattle, but what an amazing job she'd done over the last years that she's been with BDL. So
I would second that. I'd never been to the Art Walk before, and I was frankly amazed at how much foot traffic was down there. It was a lot, and actually I was down there earlier. I went home, finally thought, I better go back down there. Got down there about 7 o'clock, and it was getting dark, but there was still a ton of people down there. And I would second that about Brianne. I stuck around because they had a little going away party for her at 9 when the walk officially ended. So I made a point of sticking around there for a few minutes and shook her hand, congratulated her. She was a real breath of fresh air to the downtown, and she did a great job. And I hope we all wish her the best in her new venture as the head of the Main Street program for Washington State. So, Councilor Randall.
I would recommend that the city have the city manager send a letter of commendation to her, thanking her for her service to the city of Lewiston.
Okay. We can do that? You bet. Any other comments? Oh, one last one, because I promised I was going to do it. I brought this up at the work session, and I would like to see this on a work session agenda referencing ordinance 4583. I had a friend of mine who was the recipient of an ambulance trip to the hospital, and she realized that because she lives out in the East Orchards, that her bill was $88. But if she chose to sell her house and live down close to the hospital, like a block away, it might have only been $1 or 50 cents. So I think, citizens that live in the city limits, I'm not sure why we're charging, and it was done in 2012, so I'm sure I was part of the council at that time. In fact, I know I was, but maybe we can have a little more discussion and explanation. So I've already reminded the chief about it. We'll revisit. Mr. Bennett, anything for us this evening?
No, sir.
Okay. Advisory board and commission appointments. We do have an opening on the Joint Airport Authority, given resignation of Mr. Hayes to assume managerial position at the airport. So we are currently posting that in the paper, and I guess we'll keep it open through the end of the month.
Yes, till
Okay.
30th.
till the 30th. So anybody that's interested on the JAA, please get hold of Carrie at City Hall.
I also might advise them, they don't have to be a resident of the city
To be appointed by the city.
to be appointed by the city.
Mr. Mayor, we still have an opening on the Transportation Advisory Commission.
Okay?
And I believe we have a couple of positions still open on
Solid
solid
waste.
waste.
So maybe we can put out a little blurb noting vacancies we have on some of our advisory panels. Okay, work session agenda topics. Do we have any more that we'd like to add? Councilor Daniel.
Just want to edit the one that's coming up in November. I had requested that we discuss Chapter 21, but it also includes Chapter 37, since they both kind of mingle a little bit. So I'll be bringing up a few topics on business licenses and zoning that directly
To the extent
affect
you
that.
can outline a little of that in the head for me, I appreciate it.
I will.
Yeah, we already have 21 on there, we can add that on.
Well, it's for the purpose of, they oftentimes.
Refer to one
Yeah,
another?
they refer to each
Okay.
other, so.
Mr. Mayor, Councilor Daniel had brought up scooter ban and it being a useless law, which I agree with. So is there any way we could have a work session on repealing that?
I was going to mention, yeah, we'll put that and the ambulance ordinance, we'll find spots for those that we can, at least chat about those a little bit.
Okay,
Okay?
sounds fair.
Probably won't be till December. First
fine.
of December 1 is our work session date.
Okay. Okay, well, with that, I'll entertain a motion to go by roll call to go into executive session, RE personnel and pending litigation per Idaho Code Section 74-206, paren 1, B, and paren F.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Aye.
Councilor Maldonado?
Aye.
Councilor Mayor Pro Tem Johnson?
Aye.
Mayor Kleber?
Aye.
Councilor Daniel?
Aye.
Councilor Collins?
Aye.
Councilor Randall?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 7-0. We'll go ahead and take a 3-minute break. Thank you, everybody, for attending.